Welcome to the Secrets Women Keep podcast. I am your secret keeper and confidant, Lauren White. I'm a qualified counsellor and sexologist, facilitator of all things turn on, author of Permission, and a witty, highly intuitive lounge room dancing introvert. I help you as an exceptional woman in entrepreneurship to see, love, and trust all the parts of yourself, especially the unseen. Let's pull back the curtain, light the candelabra, and lift the veil. These are the secrets women keep. Hello, and welcome to the Secrets Women Keep podcast. I'm your host and confidant, Lauren White, and today we have a completely magnetic guest. Her name is Vanessa Muradian. Vanessa is a qualified sexologist, yoga teacher, and the founder of the sex and wellness platform Mia Muse. Vanessa has been working predominantly with women, non-binary and gender non-conforming folk over the last 12 years. She works with individuals to cultivate healthier relationships with themselves and their pleasure. Since 2008, she's spoken to thousands of people, inspiring them to find freedom in their bodies and ultimately more pleasure and vitality in the everyday moments. Vanessa believes your life is the foreplay, and accessing small moments of ease and pleasure throughout the day is the magic in cultivating a good and fulfilling sex life. Vanessa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Lauren. So happy to be here after our years of, flying in the same zone and being in and out of each other's lives. I'm excited. Let's get into it.
Yes, yeah, I'm excited too. And you're one of those people where, we don't talk often, but when we do, it's just kind of like the way that I feel it is this flame just kind of burns, like when we do eventually catch up or get together or like our paths cross. But I wanted to share with listeners why this topic. The topic is the secrets of embodied pleasure. And I want to tell listeners why this topic is so perfectly fitted for you and your essence. And it's about the first time I ever met you. So
I'm looking forward to this.
Yes. Okay. I have to share this. All right. Because it's like the memory is clear as crystal clear in my mind. So I'm sitting in one of the classrooms at Curtin University in 2011. It's our first in-person class. We did 2 weeks of intensive at Curtin University when we enrolled in the postgraduate diploma of sexology. And I'm sitting in this classroom, people going jibber jabber, jibber jabber, and in walks in this woman with this beautiful presence, this beautiful curly hair, this white shirt. Do you remember your white shirt, your white collared shirt that you were like you just looked banging? And it was seriously like everyone, I swear to you, everyone looked at you. Everyone, like your presence was just like this. It was magnetism in full effect. Like I can still see you, and I was like, who the fuck is that? Oh my God, like so smoldering, like so sultry, so like, anyway, it was just, just such a powerful moment of first coming into your presence. And I have no doubt that I'm not the only one who's ever felt that the first time that they meet.
Oh my God, thank you. I'm like, 2011, take me back. And I'm like, what white shirt is that? I might put it on for this afternoon, just parading around the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a time that classroom was.
Yeah.
And the beginning of this journey that we've both been on, really, of self-evolution and really the evolution of society in the past 10, 12 years.
Yeah. There's those parallel processes, the work, what's happening on an individual level. It's it's been a ride. And I bet if we'd have told ourselves 10 years ago that I can't believe I'm saying that this is what we'd be doing 10 years from now, is jumping on a recording, chatting about it. Like, I think we both would have, there would have been an element of surprise and intrigue there. If our past selves could know what we're doing now and know and learn how non-linear it all was.
Oh, for sure. And that beautiful, I'm just also remembering that time we worked so closely together, and, you know, you being like amazing in the classroom and such a, like, I was always inspired by how you know, and I think, yeah, we just have a good yin yang balance, and we had that back then, and it would be, you know, interesting to explore again now. But yeah, you brought so much to my year with sexology and at Curtin, and yeah, we're attached from that moment for sure.
Yeah, it's it's been a dance. It's been a real dance, and yeah, wonderful to watch you bloom and see where life has taken you. Before we get into where life has taken you and what embodied pleasure is, I would love to ask you, Vanessa, every guest I have on the show, the question I put to everyone is, I want to ask about the bathroom stall moments in life, because these are the moments where we can experience such intense learnings about our presence, about our essence, about our body, about our dreams, about everything that we stand for. And I define the bathroom stall moment as one in which you're trying to hold it all together as everything feels like it's falling apart. Like, you want to be, there's usually tears. There's a sense of darkness. There's a sense of, how the fuck am I ever going to feel different from this? It's like, I want to be seen by someone in this moment, but I also want to be invisible. Like, no one look at me right now. It just depends where you're at. Maybe you can feel both of those things at once. I was wondering, have you ever had a bathroom stall moment? It doesn't have to happen in a bathroom stall. It can happen anywhere, but it's just like, can be like that breakdown before the breakthrough.
Ooh, I feel like I have them fortnightly. But yeah, doing this work, because it is so about desire, and you're teaching people how to follow their yearning and their wanting, and to also cultivate that when they feel empty and low in vitality. And yeah, I worked, obviously, just like in the industry itself being so stigmatized and taboo and shadowy, that it was really hard for, you know, the work that we were doing to get it out there, because people are secretly coming and saying how wonderful it is. But back in the day, no one really wanted to share that quite externally. So it was a slog. And over the years, I've really realized that me, you know, expanding into that charismatic woman, I guess, that walks into the classroom, and also just her own growth into who I kind of am today. I guess when I'm teaching people to love themselves, that ultimately that has been my own quest. And that, you know, I was abandoned. My mum died when I was quite young, and then subsequent kind of, you know, hardship with my stepmom, who also died when I was early 20s, and this, you know, yearning to be seen for myself was part of why I was doing the work. You know, I wanted to be seen and loved. So, you know, over the years, working full-time in pleasure and in liberation, that it was bloody tiring eventually, and holding space for so many people that, you know, I was really burning out. And I, over the years, kind of maybe about, it kind of hit 4 years ago, this peak zone of burnout, really. And for me, there was grief, there was anger, there was rage, I kind of got to the point where I couldn't hold anymore because my inner child or my wounds were screaming out for me to hold them alone in silence. Yeah, and as I'm talking about that now, I can feel it still in my body because I am, I feel really, really great in the client work that I do now, and a lot of creative work is flowing through me. But for so long, I was just balancing. And yeah, even when I talk about it now, because I am exploring that grief and my mother grief, like really quite intensively at the moment, like weekly with my therapist, and I'm equipped, and this divine self that is Vanessa, the woman that you see that walks into that room, actually meeting her and moving from her consistently has been the biggest practice of my life, and really kind of propelled me into this embodied work, because that embodiment was my own savior. But yeah, that bathroom stall moment was full of rage. It was full of kind of a lack of communication in my partnership. It was doing all the work, but kind of when I got home, really just needing to zone out and shut down and be with myself. And at that point, I wasn't really being held by therapists and body workers and what I do now. So yeah, there was a breaking point. There was a big breaking point in my relationship, and but now I work how I want, and I see clients when I can, or like I schedule it so I have breaks and time alone to be with that creativity and to be with my heart and my spaciousness, which is exactly what I get to teach, which is the best part of it. That,
yes,
generally the women that come to see me, or the folk that come to see me, they need this permission too, to take time off, to get what they need, to not prioritize, just the money and the income and the survival in that way, but to actually prioritize the feeling body, the connection to the body, the connection or the cultivation of pleasure over a number of years, to feel balanced, joy, and easy as often as possible. So I really practice that, on my own behind the scenes, and it's necessary for me to kind of hold space how I do.
Yeah. And first of all, I want to thank you. I can hear, as someone who knows you and how you speak, I can hear the new layers that you've uncovered through your voice and the levelness of your voice. Like I've heard, it's almost like I can hear the maturity coming through and the real wisdom, and I can hear the alignment and the congruence. Like that feel like you feel unshakable in that. Like this is a non-negotiable. This is a necessity. This is like breathing, is being this, lest I not be here because I'm in holding and I'm burnt out and I have nothing to give. And I can hear that. What
thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. It's just I can hear your gift. Why, I don't know why this is coming through, but why do we have to get to burnout from holding in our feelings, holding in our grief, holding in our rage, holding other people, holding space as people who are, generous? Why do we need to get, why is the story so often that we've got to get to the burnout point? Like what?
Well, I think I think that it is because, and I say this to clients as well all the time, that we are this first generation of humans that get the privilege, or have the privilege, and that get to do the work on ourselves. When we think about our parents, they were in a different kind of survival mode where, at least for me, it was very much, and particularly my dad, earn the money, get the house, feel safe in it, and that was what life was about. And here we are with a certain, for me at least, a certain level of I guess privilege in that way. Sorry, I just lost my headphone. But that privilege or that security with foundational stuff like house and earning then allows me to invest in my self-care. And I think that's quite a buzzword, really. And I think self-care is a whole thing that we're also all really learning. But yeah, I get to go to therapy, and I get to go to the osteo, and I get to go to the, rage out on the beach. These just were not conversations. I read a letter recently that my mum had written in 1994 about her experience with doctors and healthcare providers, because she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer when she was 34. And even how she's talking about the healthcare system and the alternative medicine, and how she wanted to feel valued as a patient and as a human, with a terminal illness, that was like brand new at that time, to be questioning these things and demanding it of those people. And I'm really grateful to come from a woman like that. But yeah, this is why, like, it's like burnout wasn't an option for our parents. I don't think it was happening. And I see it now more than ever, how, that shows up as illnesses in the body, or perhaps like a bit of intergenerational trauma in our generation. But here we are, the first, I think, group of people societally that get to, talk about care and self-care, and then further community care and looking after ourselves, so that we can, help others rise up and raise their voices and all of these things. But you simply can't do that if you're tired. And it's a new conversation. And I think it's a real one. We're talking about bodies and nervous systems and safety and trauma, and all of these things come into play around burnout. We may not have known, our parents wouldn't have known if they're burned out. They just kept showing up to their job 9 to 7 p.m. and slogging it out. So, it's a new conversation. Then it's the privilege of being able to see it and potentially step back and take time out, because you have the support to do that. Some of us definitely don't. But it's then looking at priorities and how we go about that to kind of really take it seriously. But I think it's a new conversation, and if we're looking at the body, suddenly we get to see all these things, and it might be scary, because it's like, oh my God, I'm burned out. Oh my God, I'm feeling tired. I have to do something about it. And we don't necessarily have the structures or the systems in place societally to support those things, those changes. But, we are, every step we take towards changing the system. Just lost my headphone again. And liberating ourselves and how we do life is literally, moment to moment kind of thing. And we're creating it here and now. Yeah. So that's why I think it's a new conversation. We just have more body awareness. We have more privilege to look at it.
Yeah. I really, really love what you've just said, and how it fleshes out the conversation around burnout, because you're talking about cultural context, you're talking about what's happening on an individual level, you're talking about what's happening on a somatic level, and all of these aspects have been brought to light that, like you said, like people would have just pushed through. It just would have been life. It just would have been, well, this is what you do. You just get on with it. You don't have the term burnout, I don't think was coined until, I'm not sure what year it was coined, but it was, I'm assuming was around sometime in the 90s. So it takes a while for words to really get into everyday vernacular. So I really appreciate that perspective. You've really given it more depth than using that term. Some people use it really flippantly. Oh, I'm in adrenal fatigue, I'm in burnout. It's like, this is a really real situation that that so many people are in, and privilege is such a factor. Yeah. How do you, just speaking about burnout, how does embodied pleasure now weave embodied pleasure into the conversation? Can you tell people what it is and maybe how, what the dynamic is between burnout and embodied pleasure?
For sure. So I just wanted to also add, like, my burnout, like, I've realized, the strengths of me as a youngster, like going through all of this, pretty intense conversation from a young age around, my mum dying. That was like the conversation I was having when I was 8. I became the person who holds it together, because that was the only way I knew how to do it. And so obviously that becomes a strength, but and just to be kind of obvious about that the opposites there's the strength and the kind of weakness or the lack or the fear. And so I was just holding. And that's why I became this awesome holder of space, and to hold these private, secret conversations for people and their liberation. And that's what I do. But I hadn't allowed myself to be held. So I was moving from that place. And not that it necessarily affected me, because when I show up to clients, I'm 100% there, but it was kind of the rebound effect of that afterwards, that I actually hadn't allowed myself to be held. So that's what my journey is kind of over the past 5 years, and definitely more acutely in the past kind of year, is that I'm really just surrendering to, the holding that my therapist gives me and a few of these other practitioners that I kind of mentioned. And I seek that and I surrender moment to moment to allow that. Then the work of holding space becomes vitality. It doesn't become this like thing that I have to do to survive.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So yeah, let's celebrate that.
Yes, let's.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And that's just felt beautiful. And even then, just like in the past 6 months, the creativity and, people are like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Do this, do that, over years and years. It's like always kind of comparing me to people who do it fast and pump it out and get it out into the world. But I have so much compassion for that part of me now. I used to compare myself and feel, competitive and like I wasn't doing what other women in the industry were doing or getting it out as quick. But now I look back and say, you did the best you could, and slow and steady was how you needed to be. And also you just needed to have this wound held, and that's just fucking how it is. And Vanessa does it how she does it, which ultimately, and I know you're the biggest fan of, then gives permission for other people to be in their process and on their journey. And it just does not look like anybody else's.
Yes.
And again, there's vitality there.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And that's what it's about, this kind of libido that you and me have talked about forever, being vitality. And what fills us up is doing the work from a whole place, not a fearful inner child kind of wounding place. But I also don't want to diminish my work by saying that, but that was just the reality of being a human in the world and growing into who we are, especially when you've kind of had early trauma. Of course, it's going to like light your fire for a good few years, but then the fire probably has to shift a little bit.
Yes.
So that was just a little disclaimer.
What you said is, your answer is just how you conveyed what you just conveyed. I'm like, it's what people need to hear. It's what people need, that true life-giving permission to be themselves, to not compare, to not just see that as a meme, but to hear it backed up by a real life story of honoring your own process, your own speed, how you generate, how you have done things a certain way from a certain place and intention, because that's all that you knew at the time. Like you were always working with what you knew and what your capacity was. And then when you realized that, okay, there's a different way that I can go about this, you felt the medicine of holding from a place that really is life-giving, life-sustaining, full abundance, completely generous, rather than a place of coming from a place of lack, or this is what I do, this is what I'm designed to do, I am designed to hold, I am the holder, like sticking to labels, scripts, stories about how you hold. The holding is so generous when you are simultaneously holding yourself and allowing yourself to be held by other people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That was beautiful as well. And thank you. And then it's like, how does embodied pleasure come into that, right? So then it's like, if we're moving from fear or lack, or just through day to day, it's kind of got this energy of like survival to it. Well, that was what I kind of came to. And it was beautifully gifted to me through a training I did, 300-hour yoga training with Embodied Flow. And my commitment to myself there was just be in the gifts of this. But Embodied Flow, they work, it's a yoga school, and they work with like body mind centering techniques and osteopathic techniques, and just a lot of embodiment and getting to this place where we are fully embodied in this moment now, and moving from there becomes like this flow state, that every step we take, we can be in flow. But in order to move freely and flow freely, fully, with vitality and joy and balance in our lives, we can't do that if we're moving from reaction, if we're moving from fear, if we're not awake to our drivers, right? So if we're unconsciously moving through the world, for me, there was an element of survival. And I was standing in the shower one day and I was like, fuck, I've got this brilliant life, and I still cannot wait to be on holiday. And I still cannot wait to be kind of on holiday at the end of the day, the Netflix, the wine, the joint, whatever it is. Or I can't wait to be on holiday in 4 months to kind of stop doing what I'm doing. And I was like, what the fuck is that about? You can't live like that. I don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
And so what I knew about how survival felt and was embodied was this really fast kind of moving through the world without the blinkers, without seeing in that beyond kind of this like forward trajectory. There was no side view, or there's not that full inhabitation of the world behind me. It's just like I am moving forward, and if you're in the way, that's what I notice in clients. I guess myself, I'm pretty slow and present, but yeah, that survival, what did it look like? It can look like pushing through conversation. It can look like, it has a forward trajectory, but if I sit here and embody myself fully right now, right, and have a breath, how I answer, how I attune, how I listen to the divine kind of words that want to come through me, it's a whole other revitalizing and conscious experience. And that can be changed in the moment. So, Embodied Flow, the school taught me to kind of look what like pushing and collapsing might look like in the body, and then finding like a balance point. So for me, I kind of use my spine. The spine is a beautiful one, especially if your spine is A-okay, it's like upright and strong, and then there's an ease around it if we just balance into it. So right now, Loz, you could even just like settle into kind of the strength and steadiness of your spine. Have a breath here. And what if we move, from this place? And it is, so that for me is kind of that presence in the moment, right? And is something I like to teach clients. But if we've got kind of grief or trauma that is like activated, that will come into that moment, and then there might feel like some contraction or restriction or fear. And that's why we have to do the work, like see a sexologist or see you or a therapist or a body worker to help us kind of get to know our reactive states, and how key part now in the work we've done with the Institute of Somatic Sexology is like, how do we integrate the body and the mind? And because pleasure, and particularly sexual pleasure or orgasmic pleasure or whatever you want to describe it, is so in the body, and people come with their brains being like, help me, tell me what to do, fix me, or what do you know? But really it's about starting this conversation in the body, attuning to it. People are like, help me have the most orgasmic experience, Vanessa. And I'm like, well, when was the last time you said hello to your pussy? Do you, and like, what is that in an embodied way? So does that make a bit of sense?
Yeah. Yes, most definitely. And I'm casting my mind back to some of the earliest clients I saw where there was that plea to fix their body through their mind. Like, surely if I think about this enough, or you plow me with enough information, like just give me the information, surely I can go into that bedroom and feel the things that I want to feel. And it's like, no, we have to do it through the body. That's why the first thing we do in every session is breathe. And that's been the standard for 8 years of sessions with my clients. Yeah. Always with the breath, There is no point talking about pleasure, talking about joy, talking about orgasmic states, eroticism, vitality, exactly, feeling alive, feeling engaged, anything, feeling satisfied, anything you want to feel, not do. There's no point talking about any of it if you exist from the neck up. And it's okay that you have done that. Now that you know, just like we were talking about before with your own story, now that you're aware that there's another way of doing it, come into your body. And I don't credit sexology. I'll be 100% clear on that. I don't credit our sexology degree at all for teaching us that, because it didn't. We didn't talk about breath. We didn't talk about breath. We didn't talk about pleasure. We didn't talk about it was ultimately a public health degree. And speaking for myself, I got what I needed from it. I enjoyed the academia of it. I enjoyed the writing aspect. It taught me things that would go on to be useful. It really was the Institute of Somatic Sexology with Deej and Uma, it was an embodiment certificate. So you can't go wrong. Everything is come into your body, back to the breath, back into your body, like again and again and again. And you keep doing it. And I say it to my clients now that are in your head, that are in their heads about whatever it is that they want to feel, back to your body. And I said, I don't care how many times I have to say it. And I don't care how advanced you are in whatever you've done. If you were my client, I would still be saying the same things, because you cannot override or tap into pleasure purely through your mind. You can't bypass your body. You can't, it's not going to happen. So,
and you can use it. And on that, I'll just,
go.
You can sometimes use it as that's probably how I had sex for a good number of years, was to feel. I was like, give me the most embodied experience I can have. And now I can feel. Now I'm here and alive. And that was the journey pre-burnout, obviously. But so and you and me, we know, and I'm sure people listening also know, that stress is like one of the biggest libido killers. But when we talk about stress, it's in the body. It's like cortisol, adrenaline, and it is that state way out of balance, and that state dominating. So the foreplay, the embodied foreplay, are these moments where we breathe and we check in with the body all day long. Yeah. Because that says, I'm prioritizing now my body. And that then it's from there, months of practice here, like, and attuning. I'm awake. Oh yeah, breathing. Am I breathing? Or right now, as we talk about it, how are we inhabiting our bodies and our genitals and our breath? And then it's like, okay, here's my erotic self. Here's my pleasure self. And it's only one step away. It's not like 10 steps, and it's not, you're not lying in bed like, how do I get out of my head? Because you've cultivated a practice that is integrating getting out of your head all day long.
Yes. And life as foreplay.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this in our messages when we were talking about this episode. And you've already mentioned some incredible ways. Are you able to expand upon life as foreplay for people who are like, wait a minute, like how is life foreplay? How is that possible? Yeah. Who have only really had contact with that word in a sexual context?
Yeah, for sure. This is like one of my biggest teachings that I've run with over the years. And I think it came from, Esther Perel saying that foreplay begins at the end of the last orgasm.
Yes.
And that everything in life, or everything in a partnership contributes to partners or people feeling safe and ready to arouse and to let go and to experience pleasure. And so I took that, and then with my embodiment work, with my own kind of embodiment and getting to know what's kind of surviving looked like and stress felt like and what the effects of that were, that then exactly what we were talking about only moments ago, that everything we do to integrate embodiment all day long is your life as foreplay. Because what is foreplay? Yes, maybe some people say it's sexual touch, or it's your partner going down on you for a good 40 minutes before maybe penetration, but old school, right?
Yeah.
It's like we want sexuality. Well, I want sexuality and sensuality, which are key, to be infused in my day-to-day and in who I am. And yeah, obviously that's where shame stories can come in, because that wasn't so safe for particularly people who identify as women and definitely, non-binary and GNC folk too. We haven't really been safe in the world to kind of sexuality and overt sexuality has only really looked one way. But when we think about sex, and I guess I was going to say pleasure, but particularly sex, it's about connection most of the time. So any quality that allows us to connect to ourselves, to our senses, to our pleasure. I teach in yoga. Sometimes I crack a joke on purpose so that people laugh. And, it's a good joke if I can get them to laugh on cue. All right, I'm going to do joke and you're going to laugh. And then they feel the laugh. And I say, where are you feeling that in your body? Like so often we laugh, and this is a perfect chance to like cue in. Okay, what does embodied pleasure feel like? What is laughter? What does looking at, or even being here right now with you, is like the memories flow in, and like camaraderie and the peer, even though like we don't talk heaps, but it's still there. And we share this journey, which we've definitely both been on without necessarily talking about it, but feeling it. The vitality or the excitement of that story is even here as we speak. So it's like, how does that feel for me? I can feel it bubbling kind of in the center of my chest and right at my solar plexus. And if I allow it, it kind of props me up. It helps me feel supported. And for me, it's that conversation that life is foreplay. And then if you want to, and pleasure is available everywhere if we choose to see it like that. So that's what I mean by life as foreplay.
Yes. And I feel called to talk about laughter. Oh my gosh, I just had a memory. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to talk about laughter for 1 second, and then I'm going to share a memory which is about laughter and you. So I love laughing like so much, and it's one of those things like that is a definite source of pleasure for me. So sometimes I pause, and when I laugh, and I realize, oh fuck, I missed that. Where the fuck have you been? Like, why have I not been laughing more often? Why have I not been? It feels like orgasm to me, laughing, and that's why you'll hear. And people have given me feedback, like they love my laugh on the podcast, and it's like I love laughing. I love it.
You have an amazing laugh.
Oh, thanks. It's such a reflection of my orgasm.
Yeah, baby.
It gets more. Yeah, it gets more.
Mirror that for us. What's the orgasm like? Like, woo!
I swear you yeah, so I love laughing, and I want to encourage women to laugh. When women put their hand over their mouth and they're like quieten their laughter and like suppress it, I just think that's so. It's so limiting of your being in your fullest expression, of feeling alive, of feeling your embodied pleasure. Like a laughter and goosebumps, they're my two favorites. Not cold goosebumps, like alignment. Oh my gosh, stuff is tingling. Alignment, like kind of goosebumps. But I just got a flashback. You used to have a theory about laughter and orgasm. Can you remember what it was? I called it Muradian theory, like back 10 years ago.
I've often think about like checking back in with you about the book of my theories that you would record.
Yeah. I think
no,
it was.
I can't remember.
I think it was that you were putting together the way that a woman laughs is a mirror for how she orgasms, and I was wondering, it was something along that thread. Does that still ring true for you 10 years later?
Oh my God. Well, now that I hear your laugh, I'm like, no doubt there's a mirror right there. I can see your orgasm immediately.
Oh, hi.
I know. Yeah, baby. Thanks for the clue in. But when I think about my orgasm, I'm like, oh, I guess it makes sense, like if I'm really, really laughing, I'm bouncing. I'm just bouncing without much sound. Like I'm like, but yeah, my orgasm is quite slow, slow and deep and like rumbling. Here it comes. But I'm going to sit with that, Lauren, and maybe bring it in and have a little play. But I think, like you said it bang on, and maybe that Muradian theory landed with you because actually it's meant to go with you.
I'm going to find it and I'm going to put it into the show notes, what your Muradian theory was about.
Oh my God.
About laughter. I'm going to find it. I know I've got it in like the book I was going to write in 2012 that never happened and got rejected. It was in there. It was in there somewhere. But yeah, I would love you. I trust the way that you process, and I think it's wonderful that you honor that and sit with that one. Laughter, pleasure embodied.
But yeah, it makes. Sorry to cut your orgasmic off there. But yeah, it makes complete sense. Like, especially when you mirror it back, and the handover or the keeping it contained and the lack of like taking up space and sound, and that was also a huge kind of trajectory for me with yoga. It was like starting to use kind of a yoga class for people to access breath and sound in a way that serves their sexuality. Not necessarily in a way that served their next level yoga practice, but that was always a funny conversation I had with my teacher, Tara Jadel. But yeah, that, like exactly what you're saying, that kind of I've got to keep it small here, or I can't take up too much space, is definitely mirrored in the bedroom. And in a lot of ways that women communicate, whether it's laughter or talking or communicating.
Yeah, sound is a big one, like that organic sound that can come through as well. With pleasure.
Sure.
Vanessa, I'm curious.
Lauren.
We're getting very serious with the questions now.
Yeah, I'm putting my serious hat on.
Yeah. Your ancestry is Armenian. on your paternal side.
Yeah.
For anyone listening who isn't aware, the Armenian people have endured significant struggle and mass genocide back in the early 1900s. There's also been a mass exodus of Armenian people from Armenia that happened in the 1990s as well. Knowing what you know about your ancestors and the ways in which they needed to fight for their survival or be in survival mode, how does that, or does it at all, influence your feelings about the importance of embodied pleasure? Like, where does your vision and your work and, you know, your calling, how does it overlap with your ancestry?
Wow. Thank you for this question. I guess for me, the ancestry story it particularly, you know, got me thinking last year in 2020, and when Black Lives Matters, you know, was coming up, and I was like, all right, let me look at, like, what's my white privilege? Let me unpack it. Let me dismantle a little bit internally. What's going on? And then this part of me was screaming, "You're not white. You're not white."
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, okay, what is this? And then I was part of a few groups of which, like, gave me permission to start in that way identifying. Or actually before that, I was like literally started Googling, are Armenians considered POC? And in America, it's quite a conversation because, you know, on the race and ethnicity form, particularly people and Armenians, you know, we're from the Caucasus Mountains, along with Georgia and countries surrounding us. I'm like not totally specific on what other countries share the Caucasus Mountains. But technically, that means that I, as an Armenian, are Caucasian because I am from the Caucasus Mountains. But I also learned in that time that Darwin appropriated the term Caucasian because he liked the shape of Caucasian people's skulls, and then was like, well, we're going to kind of essentially steal this, I guess, and therefore all white people have big skulls and they're Caucasian. So there's that around even identity, that it's been whitewashed and stolen, and now anyone who's white calls themselves Caucasian. But it baffles me, like in the past few weeks, I'm like, it's in the word, like it's like you're from the Caucasus, and there's, you know, Armenians, there's so few of us, and those countries, like Armenia is a tiny country, kind of landlocked by Georgia, Uzbekistan, Iran, Iraq, and it was, you know, part of Western Asian kind of roots there as well. So I particularly have been learning, but when that voice started screaming at me, you know, you're not white, and I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely, my mum was Australian and, you know, Irish roots, probably 4 generations or so back. So I'm definitely white, but I'm also Armenian, ethnic. And when I think about growing up in the world and what people like about me, is I think that I am this mixed race woman. Like, I'm accessible because I'm white, but I'm fiery and sassy, and because I am from, you know, and Middle East is a pretty colonial term, but I'm also a Middle Eastern woman. And so that really got me thinking about womanhood and how the woman who I am, and then gender identity started coming in, and I realized, you know, I kind of, obviously it's one of my strengths and skills to be like the woman that I am, and these qualities that I do think have come from my Armenian side, that's also what people kind of sign up to when they, you know, want to learn from me. It's also cultural, and so I'm like sitting with that a bit, and then I, you know, started thinking about the white woman, and how in the Middle East, you know, the white woman or white beauty standards are the top echelon. So it was like my nene telling me I should get a nose job when I was 13. She said to me, you should just get the sides pinned in. I was like, well, actually, her and my cousin were talking about who has the best nose in the family. And I was probably, 13, 14. And I was turned around. I was like, hey, Nene, what about my nose? And she was like, yeah. Your nose is all right. You could get the sides pinned in just a little. And I went home to my auntie, and she was like, I was like, Nene told me to get a nose job. And she was like, don't you ever touch your nose. You know, she's like, I'm 3 nose jobs deep and I can never get it how I want it. Don't fucking touch your beautiful nose.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it was like removing my lip hair at 14 because that's just what they did, even though I didn't have any, like, and now it's like a bit of a feature and something I'm exploring, but it has, you know, definitely strengthened over the years, probably because I was removing it for so many years.
Yeah.
But yeah, how I was forced to kind of fit in, straighten my hair, look a certain way. And now, you know, it's like definitely enmeshed in gender identity, and, you know, I'm using kind of pronouns she, they at the moment. And I definitely identify as a woman, but I definitely identify as a gender non-conforming woman. And so, and that, when I think about as well, like the pressure of women from these countries, you know, to look kind of white, and I think it's like deeply ingrained in those women, and it's not a conversation that I'm having until I'm having it now on a podcast. But it's definitely something I think about. So I think about my liberation as a being, as a woman who doesn't have gender constraints in what, you know, woman looks like, that it is this perfect kind of mashup of a mixed race woman, and that I do it for us to feel more peace. I know it's like, it's turmoil for kind of like the women I come from on that paternal side, how we had to look and dress and remove hair, and, you know, but if you think about it, we're tall, strong. Like if you look at the Armenian roots of kind of some of those women that fought in the genocide, like there was this huge kind of group of women that were fighters, and they're tall and strong, and, you know, things that when I was younger, it was like, oh, she looks masculine, or, you know, oh, when I lost weight and became like more fit and strong, it was like I had not many curves, and that was probably, who knows what side that was from, but it's like my body was always up for, I never felt good in my body, and it was many intersections of conversation, definitely kind of race and definitely gender, and also just being that kind of innate, you know, I'm a Aquarian sun, so I am a humanitarian, I guess, first and foremost. So it's kind of like every step you take, I take, it's doing, I try to lead with love, and so that we can all feel more love. But yeah, so I don't, my nene, I think, you know, I've got this like vision of her calling my cousins, being like, tell me, is Vanny a lesbian? And they're like, nene, like just call her if you're that worried and ask her. She's like, no, just like gotta know. And queer rights in Armenia are definitely, it's not okay for the people to be gay or queer in Armenia as a country right now. And so, yeah, just me being me, and also me being half, I think has given me more permission. And my dad wasn't so, I think because of the genocide and needing to assimilate, you know, he'd moved to Australia when he was like 5 or 6. So he kind of dropped all culture, and I have this real yearning to connect with culture. And I think just the steps I take are kind of the liberation of this path, even though I don't know culturally if Armenia is quite there yet. So it's not so specifically pleasure liberation as opposed to, but it all ties in. It's like body liberation, identity liberation, to celebrate, who we are.
And to celebrate who you are.
Exactly. Actually, thank you. Celebrate who I am. But yeah, when I also think about it, I grew up in, I moved to America when I was 16. So my mum died when I was 13. So a few years later, and I think about kind of the women that I was looking to inspire me, or to where I felt, and they were Black women. They were women who were sassy and fiery and just like giving no shits. And when I think about kind of my pleasure lineage or my self-acceptance lineage, definitely Black women, and kind of not, I had friends that were Black women, but definitely kind of from this pop culture lens of what I was really interested in, what I was looking at, and how to be a woman in the world, it was coming from those women. And I think that was the otherness. It wasn't like I had friends who were from the Middle East or ethnic, but it was like, who else? Where do I fit here? So yeah, that is an honoring and something I definitely attribute to, this more outspoken, loving version of me.
Yes. Yeah. And listening to what you just shared and marrying that into what else you've shared today, I feel like you are creating where you belong. Like you're not trying to fit in, quote unquote. You're not trying to, I feel like your own exploration is you creating where you belong, and that has the power to be one of the keys of liberation for other people as well, is to create where they belong, or they may see how you're creating that for yourself, and then they want to join in on that. And that's very different from the energetics of trying to fit in, trying to change who you are, trying to temper down your natural features, your attributes, your characteristics, your expressions. I just wanted to share with you, I feel like the last few years have also been about you creating where you belong and prioritizing that, along with honoring yourself. And that is another form of permission for other people to create where they belong as well, and to find those places rather than the stress, to go back to stress and the holding of trying to fit in.
Totally. The world is like yearning for unique, lit up, unique beings.
Yes. Yes.
And fucking oath, let's illuminate some of them hopefully today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also just want to honor in my pleasure lineage, like I want to just add two more things here, that my nana, when I went back to her at about 18, and I was like, Nana, like, how do you think I was like, what do you think of my nose these days? And she was like, it's good. You do something? And I was like, no, I guess I just grew into it. And so that was the end of the story, that I didn't actually go and get the sides pinned in a little, and that Nana ended up loving my nose. And also just like, I want to honor my mother too, like having read this beautiful personal essay that she wrote just, last week, which was her 66th birthday, and she died when she was 40. But just reading it again and hearing how she demanded connection and love and was fierce in that, it definitely came from her as well. And, this beautiful woman that she was, and a white woman, and a woman who had total hysterectomy at 34 years old. So yeah, not to just totally, I wanted to honor her there as well.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to take a breath.
Me too.
Vanessa, this is my last big question for you before we go into some quick shoot questions, which are always a bit of fun and a bit of lightness to finish up the secrets of embodied pleasure. I'm curious, what's your current edge with your own version of pleasure and what you would like to learn about yourself? And the answer might be nothing, there doesn't have to be something. Is there an edge there that you're looking to explore?
Yeah, I think my edge is commitment, trust, and flow. And I'm not sure if that works, but I don't care.
Yeah. Ownership is me.
Exactly. As I was saying that, I was like, what the fuck kind of podcast are we on here? I trust, like, I'm showing up at the moment in the best ways that I can, and I notice changes, and I notice more joy, and I notice more vitality. The erotic self for me, you know, I definitely, when I was kind of post burnout and checking in, my libido was probably the lowest it's been in a number of years, like ever, actually. And so obviously doing this work, that's always something that is like an interesting juxtaposition, but also really powerful to be able to when you know, source it again, or when it arises, or doing the work, how it emerges is like really fulfilling, and you're like, oh yeah, this is some great stuff I'm teaching. But so yeah, I am in deep soul work, and I show up weekly to that container, if not daily, even though my desire would, you know, leave my therapist. And I'm like, can I just stay for a few weeks and really smash it out here? She's like, you're going to have to go now. Please, Mary.
Smash it out. Can I just smash out my soul work?
Or just like so desperate, you know, 26 years after my mum died, like just to cry these tears. But, you know, I've also been reflected by my partner and by my therapist yesterday that I am doing that, and I'm crying those tears, and that they are moving through me. So I love exploring all of these deep subjects too with clients and with humans in the world, because it all affects the libido and our ability to feel safe and release and open up and feel pleasure. So my edge is showing up to myself, and, you know, that grows and every day, I think. But yeah, I'm really present and aware to what I need, and I'm taking, you know, slow and steady has been kind of from that fable. I think it was like an Aesop fable back in the day. It was something that stuck with me since I was like 8 or 9, slow and steady. And that's me, you know, it is me to a T. I'm just like, and I just have the confidence to be me now. Like that really like next level confidence kind of came to me last year through all of these conversations and through finally being held and holding compassion. So I just want to continue with that. It's like, and continually checking. And there are some big growth, you know, there are some big kind of maneuvers that I would bring in to really level up, but just being kind of gentle and compassionate on the route is an edge for me.
Yes. Yeah. Sounds delicious.
I know. I'm like, yeah. Great life.
Yeah.
It does sound delicious because it's definitely what I live for. It's like, love kind of unpacking it all. I wonder, do you feel the same about unpacking your stuff?
Yeah, definitely. There's just always, it's continual, it's ongoing, getting better at noticing when I don't need to unpack anymore and I can just be and not have to quote unquote do the work, like do introspection. It's like just actually beautifully exist for a while, just exist, just put around, just you don't have to be journaling something or doing another course or you know, digging into deeper layers. There's lots of beautiful permission in that. So it's about vacillating between the times where, it's time to step back into a container or receive support, and then times where it's like, no, actually the really rich learning is going to come from not being in personal development work or in that world, and just integrating and working out what's sticking after 1, 2, 3, 10 years. Like, what's still sticking around from the certificate of sexological bodywork? What's still sticking around from that dance I did? What's still sticking around? Like, what's still there, rather than going and acquiring? I think that has really, like, I hear the slowdown. I still move very fast, but my fast is coming from this year in particular. It's been a beautiful one. I love this year personally. It's really been about responsive over reactive. I can still move in my fast Lauren generator way and get my ideas and do different things. And I can do it without desperation, feeling frantic, feeling like I've got to beat the clock, feeling like, does that make sense?
I love it.
Yeah, it's all excitement leading the way, and I've decided that is the only way I'm going to do it from now on. I can be changeable. I can be multi-passionate within the umbrella of women's work, and trust that every single thing I generate feeds into the next thing, creates this beautiful web of work, and it's not up to me how people consume it, interpret it, what they do with it. It's not my responsibility. My only responsibility is to create when it feels generous and abundant to create, and to still do my own shit as well. So it's really that I felt you when you talked about what it's like to hold now. And I want women to know, when you hold, when you allow yourself to be held, it is a different ballgame altogether. You are, the way that I feel when I hold now is so abundant. It's like there's no end to this. There's no scarcity. I trust that I can give you the same information in a fortnight and it'll come out a little bit differently, or I'll give you completely different information in a fortnight, and I just trust that you'll get what you need when you need it. So there's that sense of surrendering to being a channel and allowing it to come through, rather than trying to premeditate a program. What does this person need to learn? What are their outcomes? What are their goals? Like, I've really abandoned, I really have none of that in my work. It's really like, okay, what's coming through tonight? Let's check. And that's why we check in with your body, because your body will tell us. Your body will tell us in that moment. We cannot say in this moment, in a week, that's what we need to focus on in that session. Anyone, I think it's quite risky doing it that way, because you're forcing a topic on when the body might be telling a very different story about where it stands and what it wants to express. So it's I feel your words. I feel the trust. I feel the love. I feel the flow. And I just cannot believe, we were in our 20s when we did sexology. We're at that real Saturn return, that real, okay, shit's about to change. And that was incredibly powerful, because we're both born in the same year. And I just think our younger selves would be very impressed with the women that are speaking together today. I think that's stoked.
Totally. And I love that too, Loz. And for you, like, that belief in your work, and it really has resonated as well from the the other side of the screen, and seeing what you're doing and how you're holding it, and these conversations. And you're feisty, and I love it.
I love it too. I just want everyone. This is the point of the work, for every woman to access their own version of this. Like, that is the whole point. If someone said, what do you do? That is what I'd say, is for women to access their own version of aliveness, like their own version of aliveness and vitality and feeling turned on for life. That's it.
For sure.
Vanessa, I have some quick shoot questions for you. Please just I know you're going slow, but we're just going to slightly speed up.
Yeah. No, I like it fast too.
Okay, cool. All right. Just whatever comes through to you from the get-go. What's your favorite taste?
Ooh, umami.
Ooh, yes. What's your favorite ritual?
I really just love checking in with my body moment to moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Breathing, being in it.
Nice. What's your favorite secret place?
I'm living in the bush in we're definitely down by the river, Birrarung, the Yarra River. Birrarung is the Indigenous name for it. So yeah, quiet nature, river flowing.
What's one word you want you would like people to use to describe you?
Brave-hearted.
Gorgeous.
Today, that's what it is.
Yes, that's it. Today, that's what it is. It could be very different an hour from now, a day from now, a week from now. That's what I love about presence. You can't ever anticipate the answer until you're actually in the moment. What gives you goosebumps?
I think feeling seen. And yeah, when I went there, I just kind of dropped in, and it's like, for me, the flow state is when I'm kind of on stage presenting and sharing ideas. And that moment to moment connection with the audience, because I'm in flow, I can like remember, it feels like every minute of the whole hour of like interaction and conversation, words. And it's that relationship, the relationship between, that feels like goosebumps. Yes. And
lastly, who's one woman who's really seen you?
I have to say, definitely Dana, my partner, and I was also going to say Mary, my therapist, because yesterday she saw me beautifully. And I'd also love to say Auntie Rona, my Dana's auntie, who's also become a great friend of mine. And she's really seen me too. So there's 3 women. Yeah. Thanks so much, Vanessa. Can you please? And now you, my friend Lozzie. I feel like you've definitely seen me too.
I love seeing you. I've always loved seeing you and cheering from the sidelines and doing a double tap. Thank you for that unconditional fan club.
Unconditional
fan of yours. Unconditional.
Like, despite me being an aloof Aquarian on the phone, which I am, until you text me, I need you. Are you available? And then I can respond. But aside from the aloof Aquarian, I feel that in our friendship and in your support, 100% unconditional. So thank you. Yeah, you're so welcome. It's a joy like that. It always just feels abundant. Always feels abundant to see you, to witness you, and to cheer you on from the sidelines. Vanessa, can you please tell the audience where we can find you in person, online? Sure. I'm definitely more available online. So my website is miamuse.com, miamuse.com. And we're in the process of giving that some good love, and some exciting projects are coming up. So that should be the website is live now, but it will be upgraded in the next few months. I've got an exciting project coming out in March next year, which maybe we'll have to do a second follow-up podcast. Yeah, let's do around that time. Yeah, I'll book you in. Secret out there, baby. You know how organised I am. I'll book it and I'll be like messaging. I know. Send me the link now. Can we put this in our calendar? Yeah. Let's do one for Feb. Lock it in. Send me the link. I'll book it. Yep. Happy birthday. 8th of Feb. And I'm working with one-on-one clients, but I've got a bit of a wait list at the moment, so that I am more accessible and more available for more people, I'm putting together a bit of a course at the moment as well. So if you're interested in working with me, please email me and I'll kind of keep you in the loop and respond. I'm on the socials, miamuse.pleasure, Vanessa Muradian.sexologist, the biggest bloody handle in the world. And I'm all over the internet if you're curious. Yeah, you are. This has been a really nice chat, and one I haven't had before, particularly around, I loved unpacking the life as foreplay in this depth with you, and also the stuff about my heritage and feeling a bit mixed and womanhood. That's a brand new conversation. So thank you so much. Oh, thank you. I've got no doubt that this will resonate with so many women who
maybe are at a point where they haven't quite put the words together yet, but listening to you will help them to form some words, some ideas around where they're at and where they could go from here. So thank you. You're an absolute gift. And I can't wait for our follow-up.
Me too. And thank you for the gift that you are, my vital, loving, laughing pleasure hub. Thanks,
I have no doubts that this episode, thank you. I have no doubts that this episode has contributed to your understanding of your secret self. If it has activated you, take the next saucy step, and by sharing and tagging me on Instagram, so that together we can create an even bigger impact of women feeling seen, heard, and understood.